listening to the Transformations with Jayne podcast. I'm your host, Jayne Nakata, a New Zealander living her best life in Fukushima, Japan. I'm a podcast consultant and the creator of Pod Launch with Jayne, a system that helps you create your dream podcast without all the drama and hassle, leaving you more free time to do the things you love to do. This show is for people who want to hear stories of women who are doing amazing things here in Japan and across the world. You'll find loads of inspiration for how you can live your best life wherever you are. I'm glad you're here. Let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Transformations with Jayne podcast. I'm your host, Jayne Nakata, coming to you from Fukushima in Japan. We are getting into spring here. How is it going with the demasking in your part of Japan? Not really happening here in Fukushima. Oh well, I don't know why I thought it would be any different, but actually I saw something really fun the other day on Instagram that said, we're not actually demasking, we're probably just going to the nose mask and then the chin mask and then the mask on the wrist. And then maybe we can just keep them in our pockets for a while after that. So that made me sort of think, yeah, that's probably more the pace that we're at for this demasking thing. And of course, in some places, it's probably going to go better than others. But perhaps after the kids go back to school in April, when they're officially allowed to go back with no masks on, then that will speed things up, I think. Yeah, so that was a challenging sort of thing for me. I was feeling very frustrated for a few days there. And then I sort of remembered, this is how everything happens in Japan, very slowly. We will get there eventually. Oh, well. So if you need something to cheer you up today, you are in the right place because boy, do I have a ray of sunshine for you today. My wonderful guest is Mary Wanjohi. She is such a fun person to have on the show. I really enjoyed talking to her. She really lifted my spirits. We're talking a lot about being kind to yourself and finding ways that you can help if you have the bandwidth to be a helper these days. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the Transformations with Jayne podcast. It's great to have you on the show today.
Good morning, Jayne. Thank you for having me. What a beautiful day. It's so sunny. I feel like, wow, what a day.
It is
and do you know what
day.
It is today?
Yes, I do know. We're recording this on March 11th, 2023. It's that day. If you're in Japan, you'll know what that day is. Yeah. Do you remember what happened? Well, you were in Japan on that day, weren't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was in Japan. It still feels so fresh, because I remember getting out of the house. The first thing I didn't even have time to wear shoes. I ran to the school ground to go grab my son, but they did not let me take him. So I do remember so very well. It was very scary. The aftershocks were very scary.
It was. It went on for a long time, didn't it? Yeah. And so now this year is the 12th anniversary of that day. And here up in Fukushima, there are some things happening, memorials and things happening today, tonight, especially candlelight memorials and things. But I was walking down the road thinking, wow, look how far we have come that today I can walk down the road in this sunny day and just enjoy this beautiful weather. And I don't feel so sad or stress like I would have felt in the other years before. So it is kind of a situation where time heals a lot of, well, it's not just time, but having that time to every year remember is really important. And now we can approach the situation. Yeah, it doesn't feel as heavy as it used to feel or as stressful.
Oh, that's great to hear. My heart goes out to the families that were left behind, today. Could
Exactly.
be a hard day.
Yeah, for those families, it's probably still a very sore day for them. We were one more lucky families, that's for sure. So anyway, let's move on to why we're here today, which is to talk to you, Mary. It's lovely to have this chance to talk to you one-to-one. I know you through the Make March Matter group. Yeah, please introduce yourself, Mary, and then let's talk about why you're in Make Much Matter.
Yeah, so first, I'm from Kenya. I've been in Japan for the last 21 years.
Mm.
And, now I feel like I'm more Japanized. I don't know how you want to translate that. But I,
Mm.
I do love being in Japan. And yeah, how I joined MMM, it was like, I'm not an internet person. I'm a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
I want to see people face to face. I want to talk to people. But, when the COVID hit, we were all stuck in the house. There was the
Mm.
shutdowns. We could go anywhere. And my job was very strict. We were not allowed to go more than 15 kilometers.
Wow. Your
Yeah.
job told you
So
had to stay within a 15-kilometer radius of your home.
of your home.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very, very strict. And,
Mm.
so we have computers, we have to work from home so they will
Mm.
know where you are. But anyway, also I have integrity. So I like to follow rules. I don't know if that comes from
Yeah,
living
yeah.
in Japan
Well,
for a long time.
that helps if you live in Japan, being able to follow rules, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't always like that, but Yeah, so when that happened, I had to look for people to talk to because if I don't
Mm.
talk to people, I might go crazy. I love
Sure.
people. And that's how I first found the women group few. And then from there, I met Miss Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, oh, we have this group. And that's how I ended up being in MMM. And
Mm.
wow, it was a life changing
Mm-hmm.
because then I built this community. We were there. I was there every Monday, every Friday. We have the conversation. We are keeping each other, you know, feeling better, motivating, inspiring, checking on how is your mental state, all that. So that's how I
Mm.
ended up. And I truly love that group. I still, I'm a big member of that. I like to be there every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So, yeah, tell us about what you do and how you help people.
Well, I'm a very spontaneous person, but I can say I love psychology. So most of the things I do is more on the mental health. I
Mm.
love to help people. So I'm a master INLP, neuro linguistic programming, and I'm also a life transformation coach.
Mm.
Yeah, so basically INLP is more of a psychological approach. You're
Yeah.
gonna look on the behavior, thoughts, to be able to help people get clarity of what they want. And what life coach is more about now and future and
Mm.
setting the goals. So that's what I actually do. And I also teach leadership skills, team building, communication, relationship, using the Myers-Briggs tool
Yeah.
framework.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is really good because it kind of just tells us the differences we have as human beings, which is something we have. It's not something you inherit from your parents or anything, it's
Mm.
something you're born with. It's like when you start writing, you automatically, when you're a child or using your hands, is like, do I use left? Nobody teaches you how to do that. It's just
You
something
just do,
natural.
yeah, what works for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the
Mm.
same with our personality. We do have different way of how we receive and give energy. We have different way of mental process, different way of the way we approach the world. So that's what I teach. It's because it helps the teams, know the differences. When somebody's door is closed, it doesn't mean that person doesn't like you. It's just like they need to process internally. When I'm coming in the morning, like almost screaming, good morning. It's just like, that's how I get my energy. So that's what I do. And I truly
Mm-hmm.
love doing that, to
Mm.
organization, couples. I also
Right.
do to couples when they're
Couples.
struggling with their communication.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting that, and so, yeah, it's great to have a place to go in English, right, for couples
Yeah.
who are struggling
Yes.
with their communication. Fantastic. We have Mary in our community who can help us with that if that's something people need. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, like, what can we do as foreigners here in Japan to build a life that we can really enjoy? What do you think? Like, you must see a lot of people who are struggling, and what are they missing from their lives that is, or what is it about them or the way they're thinking or something that makes their life unhappy in Japan?
One thing I'm going to be very honest, it's the mindset.
Mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we have our culture, we have our beliefs. When you're growing up, wherever you're growing up as a child, you kind of get these beliefs, values, and everything, the differences. And then you come to Japan, where it's a different country, it's a different world.
Mm.
So you have one thing I can say, being in a healthy mental state and having the self-awareness, then changing your mindset, not changing your culture, your culture, your beliefs, your values are still there, but at least accepting the change,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
accepting that change and then to embracing that change. And then, having the mindset of like, this is how we do in our country, but this is how we do, just be more curious of like, okay, they do this way. There's also a different perspective, which doesn't mean that yours is wrong and theirs is wrong. So when you have that open mind, then I think that can really help you get where you want to go. You are still going to have your culture, your beliefs, but that you are also going to accept and embrace the changes that happen. My story is like, I came from a very small town in Kenya. Like, I was a farmer. Like, everything we had, we were growing. We had cows. I know how to milk, all that
Oh,
kind of
wow.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine me coming to Japan and going to Shibuya? I almost froze. Right?
I must have nearly died of shock, right?
Yeah, I was frozen. I still have problem walking in big stations like Shinjuku. I don't know if I can live in those big cities because I'm still
I'm
that,
glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that because I also struggle. I was on the Shibuya, that big crossing in the front of the Shibuya station the other day, and all the people were crossing in all the directions all at once. And I was like, how am I going to get across here without like this? How does this work? And I was just kind of feeling overwhelmed. But luckily, I was with Lindsay Sawada, who was on the episode just recently, and I just like, okay, just stick next to Lindsay and follow her, and maybe you'll make it across this crossing. It was just this like nothing we experience here in Fukushima or in my home country. So yeah, I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
And that's after 20 years of being here in Japan, right?
Still, right?
Yeah.
And we still, that's something I still like. I don't want to use the word struggle, but it's almost struggle with. But again, that's a
It's
self-awareness.
a challenge, yeah.
It's a challenge. But what my point was, food. I never grew up eating fish. I still don't eat fish.
Right.
So just because I don't eat fish, and for example, in Japan, there's like, they have the best sushi and all that, there's something else I can enjoy. So for me, being open-minded, okay, there's these too many people, there's this different, way of doing things, but how can I accept that and do things that are going to align with, the culture, if that's where I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
But it was really hard in so many ways because, it takes a while for you to kind of recondition your brain.
Yeah.
So I think accepting that and learning how to do things, the way that will help you, that's good. That's most important. And self-awareness, basically.
Self-awareness, yeah.
Yeah.
That can be very tiring, can't it, to have all of these changes, right? Dealing with all of these, like every day, things are so different. It's really, really tiring, and it takes a long time to build up your kind of stamina for this life. And I really notice when I do get a chance to go home to New Zealand, like just everything seems easier, or I just know what's going to happen generally. Not always, and that can be a reverse culture shock too when you go back and things have changed while you were away. But generally, things are the same, and you know what's going to happen. So we have to be kind to ourselves, I think, right? When we have these down times or worn out times.
Yeah, I think also building resilience is very important.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, in life, our brain they are built in a way that it's easy to focus on the negative side of the world.
Yes.
It's natural because they're there to protect you. It's not a bad thing, our brain are built there, like when the danger or when there's a sense of threat, the first thing they want is to protect you. So it's also very easy to kind of focus on the negative part. So that's why, regardless of all the changes, instead of, for me, like, I don't see changes as a bad thing. I see like, okay, what am I going to learn from here?
Yeah.
And this comes from building resilience, whatever that is going in your life, whatever that is going on with your life, there's always something that is good. Not
There is.
everything is bad at the same time.
Yeah.
That we focus more on what is going bad. But if you have a chance to build resilience and see what's going well, then you're able to build something out of that. It's going well, and maybe, get out of it. I like that quote that always says, like, there's always sun or whatever after the tunnel. What does that say? That quote I'm talking about?
The sun always comes out after the storm or something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or there's light after the tunnel. Yeah.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
I live with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be this tiny little light, but it's there.
Yeah. But again, we are human beings and we have emotions. And that's the other thing, knowing what are your emotions, how is your mental state? What is, when you get such emotions, sometimes you have triggers. And just kind of knowing yourself, I think, is the most best thing that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you like to do to keep yourself feeling, balanced or happy? I mean, I see you're always smiling, Mary. So I think your general level of happiness is kind of maybe higher than mine, but like we all have a sort of a natural equilibrium where we return to, right? And and that. What do you like to do to help you when you feel like it's been a hard day or had a challenging day? Or
well, I like to first think of like I said, I like to realize what happened, what made me think it was a challenging day. And because sometimes it's just it could be really it was a challenging day, but what did I learn from there? But at the end of the day, I'm focused more on the peace. I think the way they say growing with wisdom, that's how I feel like. So setting up the boundaries, setting up what to say, when to say yes, when to say no, knowing what is it that I really like to do. Because if we just keep doing things for the sake of everything else, the world is very demanding. Every time there's something that the world wants from you, but just having the awareness of like, what is it that I really enjoy doing? So that way I'm able to actually not get so much involved with the, getting so many challenges. But, there are some things we can't afford, like, being in work. Some people have toxic, work environment.
Toxic environments, yes. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to think about, especially now that life is going back to normal slowly, as in things are starting up again. We're having face-to-face meetings again. People have things back on the calendars again. We're getting busier outside of our homes again. That we have to remember to say no to things that are not good for us or are not in alignment with us. And it's a skill that maybe we might have forgotten over the COVID time, when there was nothing happening and everything got cancelled, or people tried to do stuff, but then it got cancelled because of COVID. Now things are happening again. But yeah, I was looking at my schedule for next week and I just noticed, wow, it's too full. Like, there's too much stuff on there. How did I let that happen? Like, why did I do that? I know I'm going to regret that. It's mostly great stuff. It's stuff I want to do, but at the end of the week, next week, I might be like shattered. Yeah, I might be too tired, and then I will have regretted doing not all of it, but doing so much, right? I should have been a little bit more careful about what I let get onto my schedule for next week. Yeah.
That's something I realized, especially, when you have so much empathy. Like, I'm very compassionate, I like compassion. I'm a big empath, but I realize sometimes you may be caught in a place where hey, come do this. And without unconsciously, you're already responding, yes,
Yeah.
And that's why I think for me, self-awareness has been a big thing. It has helped me make better decisions. So now I know, like, okay, let me check my schedule and I'll let you know. But on the other side, I know what is it that I'm interested. Like when you reached out for this podcast, I know I like talking about life.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in,
Yeah. Yeah. You were
But
in. Yeah.
there's some things that I get invited. I'm like, okay, let me think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say no. Like, I'm sorry, I can't, and I don't feel guilty about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it's good to be kind to ourselves. That's a good point. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you know, uh, you cannot please anyone. You cannot make everybody happy. The most person you want to make happy is yourself, because if you're happy, then you attract the happiness from outside.
Yeah. Exactly. Nobody else
Yeah,
can make you happy. It's an inside job. That's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to reassess my scheduling things because I had some rules, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
don't don't reserve two podcast recordings on the same day because this is too much for you.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally. For some people it's not too much, but for me it's too much. One, you can give good energy for one, but
Mm-hmm.
two, afterwards you're completely worn out and you don't have any energy for your family or
Mm-hmm.
other things, right? So like remind myself of my personal rules for my schedule is something I need to do, I think, going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but work family balance. And I didn't mean to cut you, but that's a good point. Because in most cases we are really stuck with the work world and we don't value the family time.
Family,
Which
right? Yeah.
I mean, like if you're not happy in the house, you're not gonna be happy at work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and we know the work ethic. I mean, working conditions here in Japan sometimes can be very overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
working
Yep.
8 hours. So, kind of learning how to deal with that, setting some boundaries or even having those rules and sticking to those rules, I think is very important. But I
Mm.
kind of schedule my free time is on my calendar.
You schedule free time onto your calendar. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever, like, I know I have this podcast, I know I'm having lunch later, and I know my free time. I don't schedule anything on Sundays. It's called my rest day.
Mm-hmm.
So I do schedule like something that I want to do for me is on my calendar. So
On
that's how I
Sunday,
make
yeah.
myself important too. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
I
I
don't feel
yeah.
guilty at all.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, I do that on a
Yeah.
Friday. I
Mm-hmm.
schedule my free time on a Friday. I've been doing this just this year. For the first quarter of
Mm-hmm.
the year, I decided to do an experiment. And every Friday, I block from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's my
Mm-hmm.
free time. It's my day off. I call it my day off because the weekend is not my day off. I'm so busy on the weekend with
Mm-hmm.
baseball and golf or kids things. Yeah, so my Friday is my day off. But even this week, something slipped into the Friday. It was something fabulous, but it was
Mm-hmm.
still work. And yeah, I'm like, oh, we have to be careful about that. Yeah, so
Yeah, but then
maintaining
there's
it.
that magical moment that may happen on that day off that you're
Exactly.
gonna.
So I don't regret it, but it's
Yeah.
like it has to be a level 10 out of 10 event to get into my Friday calendar, right? Like something
Yeah.
that's work wise, right? It has to be something really, really special, which it was. So it did calculate that, but not to let other, 5 out of 10 events get in there or something instead. That's my time for taking a nap,
Right.
going
And
to the
that's
hair
important.
salon or whatever, sitting in the garden, drinking a cup of coffee. It's getting to that season. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, so we like to talk about transformations here on the Transformations with Jayne podcast. And something that we started this podcast I started this podcast 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to name it Transformations with Jayne because that was the first name that came into my head,
Mm-hmm.
but also because I was going through a transformation at that time. I was transforming from someone who was kind of reluctant to be living in Japan
Mm-hmm.
I sort of thought if I ran away from Japan, my life would be better. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I moved home to my home country, surely everything will be wonderful. But then I realized, well, I can't leave just now because of my
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. So I have to commit to living the best life I can in Japan, right? I have to change my mindset, as you spoke about before. So we've transformed over 5 years and we're still transforming here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you see for yourself in your future there, Mary? What do you see?
It's interesting because I was just talking to my son. He graduated university last year and now he's
Yeah.
working and empty nester, right? But I was working for myself because I never used to sleep enough. When he was in high school, I only had like 4 hours sleep, being in the school for sports, right?
Mm.
And then I was always tired.
Mm-hmm.
And after, even when he went to college, I didn't have to be late to sleep late. So because my body was so much used to being so tired, it took me forever and a lot of mental coaching to be able to bring that part of me to my current state. We had to use those
Wow.
three.
So
Yeah,
even though you didn't have the that you had to do something, your body couldn't relax enough to let you sleep longer or something?
it's
You
very interesting because again, our brain are very powerful. And
yeah.
once you kind of set up your brain, not set up, like your life makes your brain set up in a condition in a certain way, unless you actually decondition it, it's hard. You're stuck there. And I think that's what happens with the trauma as well. For
Yeah.
example, if you're using the same way to drive your child to school or to the station,
Yeah.
automatically you're autopilot. You don't even have to think about it.
Mm, mm, mm.
And this is talking of a real experience. So
Yeah.
when you stop and you're going to different direction, you might find yourself just going to the same direction you take.
Yeah.
So
Right?
that's what I'm talking about. So I was so, he was in a very competitive basketball team. So
Yeah.
I had to get up 5 and I didn't go to bed like after 11 at night.
Oh, wow.
And, a full-time mom and a full-time
Basketball
working,
parent. Yeah, and a
two
full-time
full-time jobs and
three
being a single
three
mom too,
full-time
right?
jobs, right?
Yeah, and playing both mom and dad role. So I was so tired. Like on Saturdays, all I wanted is to be in bed.
Mm,
Although sometimes I had to go to see sports. And then when he graduated from high school and college, I didn't have to do all that. I
yeah.
was still stuck. Like on Saturday, I just want to be in bed
Right.
all day. So with the mentor coaching and also using the inner dynamics, it's part of also the NLP. So I had to bring that's part of me to say
Yeah.
the present that is done.
It's
Come and join me
okay. Yeah.
now in
Yeah.
the present.
Wow.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of things that I do, kind of the changing my brain, my thoughts, and all that. So now I'm in a very peaceful mental state.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big transformation. It was a big
Yeah.
transformation for me, and it has really helped. And now I came to a point. Okay, now I'm very energetic, and I was talking to my son. I say, I'm scared. It's so
What?
funny because when he was young, I was very energetic and I like to go and have fun. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm scared. I feel like I have that energy back again.
Oh, okay.
After
Mm.
that transformation, now I feel I have this energy and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with this energy? And
Yeah.
then I'm here by myself. What do I do with myself? Where
Yeah.
did I stop when I became a parent? Because when you become a parent, it's like you push a stop button for your life and it's all about your children. And now he's
Yeah.
grown. I had to push the start button about me. But where did I leave myself back then, 23
Mm.
years ago?
Mm.
So that's been a transformation for me. And that's how
Yeah.
I have this energy. So I'm trying to more like helping I work with the orphanage, I'm trying to
Yes.
do good to give back
Mm-hmm.
because many people helped me living in Japan as a single mother. So that's what I'm very focused on. So that was a big transformation. And then now being a emptiness that after so many years, that's another transformation that I'm still working on, managing that. I have so much time now for myself, but I love to study too. I love to study anything psychology. So I keep telling myself I'm not taking any other certification. Then I find myself every year, like I was taking every year,
something else. Yeah.
So it's that's a transformation. I'm very focused on myself right now. It's all about me. Anything, I'll take 2 nights, 3 nights there, go somewhere and just spend time by myself, which I never had that. So
yeah.
I'm grateful.
Wow. Yeah. It's such a life change, isn't it? When that person who you've kind of built your life around, which was your son and his basketball, it's not needed anymore because he's moved on to his transformation from student to shakaijin, working person. And so you have to transform yourself too. And it can't happen overnight because, how many years did it take for you to get to the position where you were before? It wasn't overnight, right?
It's not.
So nothing is overnight.
It's not. And it takes to talk to someone too. And that's the other thing I can say to someone who's listening. If you are struggling or if something is not so well, really some of those things, there's so many things we need to talk to people. People need people, So even though I'm a coach myself, I know I can tell and building this awareness, but really it takes sometimes to talk to someone else.
Yeah.
And when you talk to someone, they can see in a different perspective and they can see things that you don't see about yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
So that really helped, having that and realizing, like I used to say, oh, I don't like cooking. And then my mentor coach was like, why is it that you don't like cooking? And then when we start working together, I realized it's not like I don't like cooking. It's actually because I had no choice and I had to cook every day, as a mom. And so I realized I actually like to cook. It was just that pressure of like no choice. You have to cook. You have another threat in the house. You have to be mindful of it's like you have to. And you're like, I'm done. I don't want to.
Give me a night off or 3. Yeah. I never want to think about what's for dinner again, basically. Yeah. But then, thank you for mentioning the cooking example because that's exactly the same. I really am not thrilled about cooking. And then I see all these TV shows where the mums are like cooking, I love making all this food for my children and bentos. And I'm like, oh, that makes me want to scream. But I would like to enjoy cooking. How does one do that?
First is to find out why you don't like cooking. Once you start digging with that, you'll be so surprised
I think I know why. It's because I was made to cook. When I was a teenager, I was cooking dinner for my family when my mother was busy, right? So she had a job. And so I was like the person who went to the supermarket and bought food and cooked for our family. So these days I hate going to the supermarket and buying food and cooking. My husband doesn't mind though. So he just went to the supermarket for us and he's going to cook our food this weekend. So I'm very grateful for his enthusiasm about those tasks. But Monday to Friday, I'm like, oh, come on. How we? Yeah,
it's like having sometimes what I've realized, like you said, you started cooking and being a teenager, there's still something in like I don't think you really wanted to do it, but you had to do it for your family. And then that's something that kind of keeps inside,
stays with you.
It's stored somewhere in the brain, and it's still like, why do I have to keep doing this? So you feel like this is a big responsibility. By the end of the day, maybe one day you're gonna be so surprised to realize like you actually like cooking, like me,
I'm wondering because obviously this is a decision I made when I was like 12 or 13, right? That I don't like cooking because I have to do this or something. So maybe it's time to change that mindset, but I still hate cooking. Today.
That's true. It's the mindset, and that brings that part of you that is still stuck back in the 12 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the another topic when we talk about childhood, like
Yeah.
we really, I think it's very important to actually revisit the childhood because so many things that we don't really realize they're affecting us today, but this comes all the way from our childhood.
Yeah, yeah. Something we decided or we're told when
Yeah.
we were younger. Yeah.
Or some experience that you experience and they kind of like for me, and I'm sharing this in hope somebody might be inspired or know, maybe try to seek help because like for me, I lost my mom when I was a teenager. I was so young. And after that, it was kind of crazy, like life changes.
Yeah.
And then because I didn't know I was traumatized, I kept going and I'm okay, I'm past, I'm able to talk about, the situation. I'm able to talk about her passing without not really feeling like I want to cry. But I was so surprised when I was again doing my mentor coaching because I realized I go to medical checkups every 6 months.
Right.
And I didn't know why I was doing this, and after when I was working with my mentor coach, I realized it was the fear I had for what would happen if I die and my son is young.
Right.
So it was, I had this fear that I never knew it was existing of me dying and leaving my son. But I actually, because of the way I felt, so I was so fearful my son not to fear, but I did not know.
Right. You didn't see that connection between your action and your feelings and
I didn't
the
even
fear.
know I had those feelings because it's been so many years.
Right, right. But it
I
was
didn't
there.
even think until when I was working with that. And I realized, oh, okay, I'm doing all this because I have fear. And this is the fear of me dying and leaving my son at a young age.
Yeah.
Okay, where is this coming? Oh, this is coming from me losing my mom as a.
Yeah.
So these are the things like really visiting our childhood is really, really, I think, very important. It can help us as human beings.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And increasingly, we have a lot of places where you can get help with these kinds of things in Japan.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been like that. And even in help in English, you don't have to suffer through Japanese counseling. You can get counseling in English these days.
And the other thing is they even have the tail, which is actually
TEL, yes.
tail is free.
That's right. Yeah. We should put that in the show notes for anyone who needs to find it. TEL has been around for a long time and it's still serving the population of foreigners who live in Japan. Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
And I also think finding a community, there's always some community for everyone.
Oh, there is. Yeah. And that's why I started this podcast in the first place, was because I didn't have a community. I was so alone and isolated. And I just thought, where are all the women like me? I can't seem to find them. Or how can we hear about each other and what they're doing? People are doing all around Japan. So that's why we started this show. Well, here I said we again. We're a we now. I have an assistant now, but it was just me in the start. Just me and my iPhone in the start. But that was the catalyst for starting this, was because I felt so alone. And that was part of why I was quite unhappy, in Japan, because I was alone. It was just me and my kids and my husband here in Fukushima. So yeah, it's so important to have that community. Whatever that might look like for you. I've heard of women here who have started martial arts and just found a wonderful community that supports them through that. Some people find it through their church or a sport. Some people find it through what their kids are doing. And I'm just noticing I spend a lot of time at baseball. Perhaps you found this with your son's basketball. You do
when you
meet
first posted about your son going to baseball, I was like, please talk to me if you need help.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. I will let you know. Because, your son was doing some serious basketball, wasn't he? It wasn't just like, oh, it's a Saturday morning and we go and we play for a little bit, then we go home.
No. He was on all stars in elementary school, junior high school. He was high school, every year, all the 3 years, Winter Cup. That's high. We used to be number 1 or 2 in Kanagawa Prefecture.
Wow.
But that comes with a lot of sacrifice.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. And a lot of traveling. So
Traveling, yes, right. And the
yeah,
parents have to be involved in all of this, right? It's not just send your kid off and give them a bento
yeah.
and say, see you
I
later.
was shocked when he said he didn't want to join a professional team. Most of his friends are now playing professional, but he decided he didn't want to.
Yeah, well, why did he decide? Because he could play professional potentially, couldn't he? He's that level, right? He could have
Yeah,
become a professional player, but he decided to go the working route.
yeah. He want to be a sponsor someday for basketball
Right,
because he
right,
said they don't have so many sponsors.
right.
So that's he's a thinker, but
Yeah,
he's still in that world. Like
the
even
connections will be handy. Yeah, one day, I'm
and
sure.
that's okay. The joys of motherhood.
Yeah, let's talk about the
So
joys of motherhood. Yeah. Tell me,
so,
Mary.
my even on my Facebook, you see, I used to have boys, so many years since elementary school, junior high school, but interesting high school. So the basketball team, they used to come here in my house. I'll cook for them. They will
Yeah.
play music. They will do takoyaki, all that kind of stuff. So I have so many pictures. Even graduation, when they graduated high school, they had the ceremony. But guess what? After the ceremony, the whole group came here.
Oh.
And I'll cook for them. I'll do nabe. I'll do everything for them. But
You made them
now they,
welcome, right? They were welcome in your house. That's potentially the only place they were welcome, right?
yeah,
I
yeah. And
think. Yeah.
they have the high school team had few mixed Japanese, but most of them also is Japanese. But they
Mm.
feel free to come. But the thing is, the reason why I bring this is because now if I want to go to a basketball game, like this, most of the teams, there's a kid that I know. I don't even pay for the games. It's like
You just,
my name is on the list.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
Mama is going. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Mary's coming. Make sure there's a seat for Mary. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the joy of parenting. So I'm getting those treats from the boys, which is fun.
Mm.
Fun. But like I say, he's still in that world. He's actually doing part-time coaching with the Spadrin, the company, the sports that sells
Oh,
sports stuff.
wow. Mm.
Yeah. So he's still
It's not
connected
all
with
for
that.
nothing. That's right. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to come full circle one day in some way. It'll be amazing. And how lovely that, yeah, that those boys, yeah, they still remember you and all of the time you you spent cooking all the food and letting them hang out in your house. And I'm sure it was a joy for you. It's a joy to see them doing what they're doing now, right? It's sort of a lovely, not a payback, but kind of reward or something for all of that
Yeah,
time you gave them.
and
Yeah.
that comes back with like, maybe I came here, I did not know anybody, but
Look at
I'm okay.
that.
And I
Yeah.
make, okay, this is where I am. This is home for me. I mean, home is where you are, right? And with that, I embrace, I talk to these boys, I mentor them. Some of them cannot even tell their parents what they are going through. So
Yeah.
I pick that role too, kind of coaching and mentoring some of these boys because
Mm.
they'll feel free to tell me what's going on.
And that you can make sure they're safe while they're hanging out with their friends. That's really a huge service that you did for those boys and
Yeah. So
their
my home
parents.
is it was also more like a safe place. And they'll
Yeah.
still come and like when I do the orphanage, when
Mm.
some of the boys, whenever they are open, they're like, okay, I want to go help. Last year, we
Yeah.
had some of them come and they had a good time playing with those kids in the
Oh, that would have
orphanage.
been wonderful for the orphanage children to meet them and hang out with the older kids. And
Yeah. They were
yeah.
so happy. They're like, oh, they are all Ikemen. I'm like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah, I only bought the Ikemens for you.
I'm like, to me, I'm like, okay, I'm teaching them, there's life beyond yourself,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, and,
exactly.
and it's so beautiful when you are able to live the life beyond yourself.
Mm.
And do not take life for granted. If you have everything, you have your mom, your dad, your food, somewhere to stay. There are some people who are suffering, like
Mm.
it's okay to help people, be grateful. So I'm teaching all these things through those community service.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, you
Yeah,
do
but it's
great work
very,
with the
yeah,
orphanages and things. That's fantastic. Yeah, I really love how every year you have put a lot of effort into trying to make the Christmas time special for the kids who are in orphanages. I think it must be really wonderful for them to have that. Have you and your
Yeah, I want to
not
give
soccer,
them
basketball
hope.
boys show up? Oh my goodness, what a highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to, there's one girl one day. The reason why I decided I want to do it every year is because there's the one girl, I think she was 8 years old. Now she's 10. She asked me one day, I brought a lot of craft materials and on a regular summer day. And she asked me, why are you doing this to us? And that really touched me. And
Mm,
the answer is, you want to give them hope. And that's the thing, your current situation is not your permanent. Your current
yeah.
story doesn't have to be your tomorrow story. You can change that
Mm,
story.
hmm.
Again, it's your mindset.
Yeah.
Are you gonna live as a victim, or do you want to become a survivor?
Mm,
you
yeah.
know just because you didn't get love from your parents, it doesn't mean that the world doesn't love you. So there's
Mm,
people who cares about you. So that's the message I try to deliver when I'm talking. Because when I go there, I talk to all those girls. I talk to
mm.
especially the middle age, junior high school,
Yeah, the ones who
and
are
even
older.
boys.
Yeah. Mm,
And that's the message, and not just those kids who are there. Everybody, like, if you're going through something right now, just
mm,
that's your current, but you can change your tomorrow. But how do you do that? By changing your mindset,
mm,
perspective, seeking help.
mm,
There's so many ways to actually go there where you want to
mhm,
be.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like finally now I have more bandwidth to be able to do and help in this way. Whereas when my kids were smaller, I just couldn't get out. Like getting through the day was enough. But now that they're a bit older and they can do more things for themselves, it's great to feel that, yeah, it's my turn. I can take a turn now to be a helper and things. So if you're feeling like you want to help but you can't yet, don't worry, your turn is coming, right? You can.
Yeah.
And now, Mary, you're at a time in your life where you can help, right? You have this
Yeah.
time and this energy, this extra energy.
Yes, this extra
Yeah.
energy. That's a good
Yeah.
point. Just because you're not capable, like if you have little kids, some people are working and still going to school. It's okay. You have to help yourself first to be able to help others.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
right. Mm.
Again, being kind to yourself. We are so much trained to be like, for me, where I grew up, it was more about the person next to you, your neighbor, take care of your neighbor, take care of. But I don't remember even one day where I was taught, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself.
Mm. That's
So
interesting. Yeah.
I don't remember, but I know the values I was in, which I really truly am grateful for, because I was trained to be kind to others, to love everybody, to think about. And I think that's where it's also coming from, and that's why I like to help people. But I had to learn how to love myself, to take care of myself, and to be kind to myself,
Mm.
and to agree that I'm not perfect. Because if I'm perfect, then I'm not growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
If
you're
I'm
done.
not
You're
perfect,
finished.
I'm done,
All
right?
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not much fun being done, right? Actually, it's the growing
Yeah.
part that's the fun part. And that's what people think it's getting to the goal, but actually it's on the way there. That's the important part, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy that.
Be knowing that you're not perfect gives you the chance to actually look for more, to
Mm,
be look for more. And the more you look for more, the more you learn more and you grow. So that's how I see it.
mm, mm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's where the setting goal of 3, 5 years comes from, because by the time you get to your 5 years goal, you are in a different life.
Totally, right?
And then you need another goal for the next 5 years, because you're going to be, that's how we have to be learning something. We have to be doing something. There's no day that you are going to be like, I'm good with what I do. I'm okay with my life now. If that's it, that's mean like you're just waiting to go go to heaven or
Yeah.
whatever. That's the way I see it.
Mm. And that state is not going to last you very long. you're going to
now.
be unhappy fairly soon afterwards, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's always that achievement, having an impact on something, striving for something that gives us that joy that we're actually looking for. It's not being at point B, which we're trying to get to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And also like you don't have to do, like you said, you not everybody has a chance to be able to help that. By looking for a hobby, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's crafting, it's
Mm.
anything that if you have family, like if all you do is to take care of your family, you're gonna get bored. That's how human being we are. Doing one thing, you're gonna get bored. But if you're doing something, even if it's with the family, like going for a hike,
Mm-hmm.
or doing some craft or doing anything that makes you happy, something that is different.
Mm.
That's what kind of motivates you. Like again, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
You have to have some kind of something
Mm.
that is different to keep going.
The
Even with
variety.
my
Yeah.
job,
Mm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think even with my job, like I'm always doing something else. I'm teaching things like they are not on my PD
Mm-hmm.
position description,
Mm-hmm.
but those are the things that really motivates me to actually even focus more on my job because
Mm.
it's different. It's
Yeah.
something I want
Mm.
to. It's not
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that I have to.
Yeah. And if it's all you do, then yeah, it's not great, is it? Yeah, that was
Right.
what I was reading recently. It was like human happiness comes from variety, having impact on something that you're doing and striving for something. It might not be happy doing everything, but the combination of that equals happiness, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And having peace of mind basically is the top on top of it all, right? Having peace of mind, having variety, having impact, and striving for something, growing, striving for something, learning something. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
the recipe for happiness. What we all want. It's not actually having a flash house or a nice car and all the money in the bank. That doesn't that would be
Make
nice to
us
be comfortable while you're doing all those things, but they just those alone are not.
and there's a difference of saying I'm happy and I'm the feeling of being happy. You may have that car and nice, beautiful house, and you'll be like, I'm happy, but inside, really, are you happy? But when you
Mm.
make that impact, like the other day, you went to help with the Kodomo Shoko,
Yeah, right. That was
that's a
like
different feeling.
completely different. It was such a small thing that we did, but it was like, wow, we helped here, we contributed. I want to do it again. Yeah, definitely. Very
Yeah, it's
valuable.
actually the small things that have more happiness, impact in people's life. The small things like sometimes we just take for granted. Just like even waking up in the morning, getting up in the morning, so I'm grateful with that. The first thing I say before I get out of the bed is like, oh, I'm grateful to see another day
Yep.
and I'm healthy, So we have this social conditioning and we are, this internet thing, and it's like you've seen people's life and sometimes we might get stuck with those people we see in the internet, but we really don't know what's going through them. And then we feel like we want to be like them. And that's where all these mental health issues is coming from,
Mm-hmm.
because we change our thinking. I think we change the way we think. We forget who we are. Again, goes back to self-awareness. I think that's a very good place to start, like building the self-awareness.
Mm. All
Yeah.
righty. Yeah, we've had Mary's recipe for for a happy life here in Japan today. I've enjoyed hearing about all the things that you do and hearing a little bit more about your son because I've seen pictures of him and he's so handsome and tall and how he's doing with his basketball and stuff. So yeah, it's what you have achieved, Mary, is really fantastic. It's an inspiration to all of us that we can really do anything here in Japan and that we can give back to Japan and contribute back to our communities as well. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was lovely to connect with you.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I just hope like someone who is going through someone can actually see the light and
Yeah.
get
Is it
help.
okay if anyone reaches out to you if they want some direction how to get help or something? Would that be okay?
Sure, that's what I'm here for. Like,
Yeah.
that if I can make one person's life better, then I feel the purpose of living.
Yeah, great. We'll put that in the show notes. So if you feel like, oh, I'd love to connect with Mary, then you can find that how to do that there. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you for having me. I hope you have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, thank you.